Hey folks, Brad Scott from Canadian Cowboy Outdoors here. Hey folks, first of all, I'd like to thank y'all for joining me here on my channel. I truly appreciate you guys tuning in. Hey, listen up. With experience in biology, science, and technology, we are going to make you a better angler. That's right, folks. Listen, there's a lot of talk these days about shiny baits. That's right. We're not talking about flashing spoons or spinner baits with the silver blades. We're talking about our bait fish imitating style baits that have what's been called an unnatural sheen to them. That's right. We have taken our plastic baits or our rubber baits that we use for Texas rigging. Sometimes it's a Senko bait. Sometimes it's a swim bait, rubber swim bait boot tail. We will take those baits, rub them on the carpet. We will stretch them out. One good tip for doing that is taking your Senko bait and having your rubber O-ring and pulling it through the rubber O-ring. That takes what has been known through the fishing community as an unnatural sheen. It gives the advantage to the fisherman in the belief that shiny things underwater not naturally relate to actual food for fish. It might attract them, but when it comes to finesse fishing, you want to mute the colors. Now, there's a bit of a trend in Cindy rigging, and first of all, don't get me started on the Cindy rig. Let's call it a jig and minnow. Let's call it a jig and twister tail. We've been catching walleye and smallmouth bass on a jig and Mr. Twister for about 50 years. That's what it's called. Let's call it a Cindy rig. Let's call it what you're calling it today so you can relate. We're talking a lead-headed jig and a small type of finesse soft plastic on the end. One of the trends is that these baits are not shiny. In fact, they're flat colored. Some people are making production-made soft baits that are flat matted, but the jig heads, on the other hand, are kind of hard to come by. All right, and if they do come by, they're expensive. What I did is I found some nice, reasonably priced tungsten round jig heads, and I have found this right here, folks. Here's the answer to all your problems. We have Rust-Oleum camouflage spray paint. That's right. This is an extra flat. It's an adhesive type of paint, so that means it's going to stick to anything. So since these jig heads already have a paint job on them, you can see how shiny it is, we can take this and we will just tap this with a little spray and we will make our own flat and non-shiny. This is actually in the green. Well, I call it green pumpkin now. Don't forget, you want to keep your eye ties free of paint. So I take the toothpicks, I'll stick them through my little cardboard, and I'll stick the toothpick through the eyelet of the hole, and I'll put it on there really tight. And why do I want to put it on there tight? Because as this jig is drying, I can turn that bait and leave it. I can turn it and leave it, just like that, so that it can dry evenly. If I want, folks, I can also take this jig head and I will put it over top of my heater like this, and I can heat dry it just like that. Folks, take some tungsten jig heads that you like so much, get yourself a can of flat camouflage Rust-Oleum paint, and you're going to make yourself some nice, flat, non-shiny Cindy rig jig heads, cheaper than you can buy them in the store, folks. Hey, listen, I'd like to thank again for all joining me today, and we'll see you on the water.